It is Tuesday, October 19th, 7 p.m. here in Washington, D.C., and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here as always with my co-hosts James Higgins and Robbie Cruz, and as always, we will be breaking down the latest in the baseball world. But first, thank you all so much for tuning in. As you know, we are live every Tuesday, 7 p.m. here on WCUA Radio, and our shows are posted in podcast form on YouTube and Spotify the following days. And we actually have some news on the Spotify front, finally. After a little bit, all of our shows up to last week's are posted on Spotify. And tomorrow, I believe, we will be posting on our Instagram an update about how to access them. We put all of these shows, so the shows are actually posted in a lump sum with the rest of the WCUA shows and podcasts. So we've went ahead and created our own playlist for the Nation's Pastime and the Nation's Capital shows. We're going to put that link on our Instagram. You can listen to them there. And then new shows for that will be up on Fridays. We've been informed by WCUA and by the person who runs the podcasting. But shows will continue to be posted on YouTube the day after in podcast form. So if you want to listen to them instantly, our YouTube is still the place to go. And if you want to listen on Spotify, you're going to have to wait till Friday for that. But they'll be on Spotify, and that I know is a lot more convenient way to listen to podcasts for a lot of people who do that. So definitely check that out. We'll post that tomorrow. And as always, follow our Twitter, follow our Instagram. More so our Instagram. We're a little more active there as of late at @PastimeCap. That's at @PastimeCap, all updates of all the postseason games. Actually, shout out to James, who's been keeping that up to date, posting a recap of all the games that are going on in the LCS, and actually before that as well with the wildcard games and the DS as well. So thanks a lot, James. And finally, before we get into it, as always, we'd love to hear you call in with anything baseball related you want to talk about. That number is 202-319-5106, 202-319-5106. So, guys, before we get into the discussion of the championship series and the division series that wrapped up since we last spoke last Tuesday, let's have some quick news around the league. And the first item I want to leave off with, Robbie here, I have a question for you, and of course about what the Yankees announced today with the statement that Aaron Boone will be returning not only for another year, but for at least 3 and potentially 4. Now, Robbie, I got to know, is Aaron Boone the problem that everyone thought he was, or do you like this decision?
You know, a lot of people have criticized the Yankees for bringing back Aaron Boone, and to me it's unfair because Aaron Boone, yes, he wasn't a great manager. Aaron Boone made a lot of mistakes. He made mistakes when it came to his lineup decision. He made a lot of bullpen mistakes, and sometimes there were questionable motivations behind him. It didn't seem like he always had his team's back, and that's why many Yankee fans didn't like him. Despite all that, however, though, Aaron Boone was not the problem with the New York Yankees last year. The New York Yankees were not hitting well. The pitching was fine. The bullpen decisions weren't as bad this year as they were in previous seasons. The big issue that Aaron Boone had this past year was his lineup decisions. When it came to the wild card game, putting Brett Garner as a starter, starting Andrew Velazquez, putting Anthony Rizzo at leadoff when he had never hit leadoff all season with the Yankees, putting Joey Gallo for there were so many questionable decisions with his lineup decisions. And that was the big issue with Aaron Boone. But despite that, he was still a fine manager. When it came to bullpen decisions, I thought he was fine. When it came to having his teams back, this year he was supporting his team more so than other years. As an example, in July 13th, the Yankees were playing the Houston Astros. Garrett Cole's about to throw a complete game, gives up a base hit, and then Aaron Boone's about to take him out. Garrett Cole says, no, this is my game. Aaron Boone lets him finish it out. That's good management right there. And then he fired his team up later that night. So Aaron Boone did a lot of good things, but also a lot of bad things. However, I think that if the Yankees stink it up next year, I think they're done with Aaron Boone because he inherited a team that made the ALCS and went to 7 games against the Houston Astros, a team that won the World Series, by the way. And then what happens once Boone takes over? They completely missed they didn't miss the playoffs, but they lose in the first round. So I think next year's Boone's last chance as Yankee manager personally. I think they'd have no problem firing him.
Even with the 3-year deal, though, that they gave him?
There's no way that next year's Boone's last year, or else they would have only given him a 1-year deal.
Boone never would have taken a 1-year deal, though.
Then they would have if they knew that the managerial position was that much in flux, they would have just cut bait this offseason instead of signing him to a 1-year deal.
No, my thing is that I think if the Yankees perform really poorly next year, and I think if Aaron Boone mismanages again, I think he's done. Because if the Yankees gave him a 1-year offer this year, I don't think he would have taken that deal, and I think he would have left and went elsewhere, and the Yankees wouldn't have had a manager.
For whatever reason, I think they have complete faith and trust in him, and me being really happy about this move is all that should tell you about how idiotic Aaron Boone is.
I mean, how is he idiotic? Besides, like, I'm telling you, his lineup decisions are bad, but he Andrew always says that Aaron Boone's a guy that just kind of stands there. He's
a puppet. He stands there. He doesn't have a good feel.
But he doesn't hurt the Yankees. Doesn't make him idiotic.
His lineup decisions definitely hurt them. Starting Brett Gardner hurts them. I would say his management of the bullpen definitely hurts them. And they got to Game 7 of the LCS in 2017 under Joe Girardi. They have not gotten to that point since Aaron Boone has taken over with arguably a top 5 roster in baseball. Lost in the LDS with 100 wins. Game 6, lost of the LCS, lost in the LDS again, and this year the wild card game.
Explain how Aaron Boone's an idiot, though.
He doesn't have a good feel for his team. He doesn't make good lineup decisions. He doesn't manage his bullpen
I addressed that,
well.
though. But his bullpen decision was fine this year.
I'm not too sure about that.
I mean, can you name some times where Aaron Boone had mismanaged the bullpen?
Continually going back to Aroldis Chapman when he was struggling in the closer's role.
He took Aroldis Chapman out of the closer's role earlier this year.
Yeah, well, that was when he allowed him to have a 22 ERA. He let it get to that point.
I mean, he had 5 bad outings.
Right, 5 bad outings in a row when he obviously wasn't there after the sticky stuff. He clearly wasn't the same guy, but he still continued to let him be the closer and then not turning to Loaisiga in the closer's role when a lot of Yankees fans and a lot of people realized that he was probably their best option and going back to Chapman at that point.
He did go to Loaisiga against the Red Sox, and Loaisiga blew that one game and gave up, I think, 6 runs in the 9th inning.
And then going back to Chapman. It's kind of like a flippy-flop, flip-flop. He doesn't
he went to Chad Green after that.
No, I'm talking about in terms of the season, not one game.
Okay.
In terms of the season.
So you're saying that he mismanaged bullpen because he went to Aroldis Chapman too many times when he should have gone to a guy like Jonathan Loaisiga. Because here is a big issue, I think. I think Jonathan Loaisiga tried to close several games, only he couldn't close. The Yankees didn't have any closers last year. They tried Zach Britton, they tried Chad Green, they tried Jonathan Loaisiga, and then Aroldis Chapman. The only one that was actually able to consistently close down games was Aroldis Chapman. And when James is right, he was struggling earlier this year. But when he was struggling, the Yankees didn't have anybody to go to, so they tried Jonathan Loaisiga, and he was blowing games. Then they tried Chad Green, he was really struggling. And they went to Zach Britton, he couldn't close games either when he was healthy. So I just don't think it's fair to say he mismanaged the bullpen this year. I just don't think he had much of a bullpen to work with because the bullpen blew so many games in the 9th inning. I don't think that's really Aaron Boone's fault.
But going into the wildcard game, Buster Olney and many others gave the Yankees bullpen the edge over the Red Sox bullpen. So, either they had a good bullpen to work with and he mismanaged it, or they didn't have a good bullpen. But it's continually one or the other, which makes zero sense.
Well, I think that the time that you're talking about, where Aroldis Chapman was struggling, that's when the Yankee bullpen was bad. But come wildcard game time, the Yankee bullpen was doing just fine. And in the wildcard game, I don't think he mismanaged the bullpen at all.
No, he didn't mismanage the bullpen because they were playing from behind the whole game.
Right. So... But we were talking about that on the show. He played his cards right. He took Garrett Cole out at a good time, and then he brought in Chad Green. I think Chad Green was the first one out of the bullpen, right?
Yes.
So he brought in Chad Green at a good time. Brought in Loaisiga at a good time. I don't think he made any bad bullpen decisions in the wildcard game or late in the season. In fact, there were several times where I was watching the game. I said, I hope that this guy comes in. He utilized it properly. I thought he did a great job of using Clay Holmes out of the bullpen. Wandy Peralta, I thought he used at very appropriate times. Personally, this year, I think this was the best year he's had when it comes to managing his bullpen. The big issue, though, is like James said, his lineup, not the bullpen, though.
Yeah, I mean, Yankees fans continually go back to this is the same thing because I talked to a lot of Yankees fans today. No, but I haven't found one that's happy about the move.
I'm not saying that I'm happy about the move, but I'm saying that. The big picture, the big thing that I'm saying is that the Yankees really didn't have many choices because I don't know who they would have hired if they let Aaron Boone walk. That's the thing. A lot of Yankee fans say, yes, we want Aaron Boone gone, but it's like you need somebody to replace him. I forget what owner said, but one of the owners said famously, hiring a manager is arguably the most difficult thing that a team can do.
Sure, but this is the New York Yankees, and who wouldn't want to come manage the New York Yankees? Aaron Boone has continually underperformed with the top 5 roster. He continually doesn't have, a good sense of feel for his team. We'll see what happens, but going forward for the Yankees, I wouldn't be happy if I were a Yankees fan.
And definitely, I just think that this year, I don't think management was the issue. I think it was the hitting coach was bad. I think, Phil Nevin made a lot of big mistakes, and the Yankees addressed that. So I think what they did was a clean house this year, minus Aaron Boone and minus Matt Blake, and they're going to see, how do they do next year with new faces in the organization. And if they struggle again, I think that's when they seriously start to consider letting Aaron Boone go. But that could be wrong. We'll see.
So ultimately, though, a lot of confidence shown in Aaron Boone giving it more than the 1-year deal there, although I think Robbie's right. if it was going to be a one-year deal that they offered him, I don't think Aaron Boone takes that. And I also think, by the way, no matter what your opinion of him is, it's a big enough name that if he doesn't go back to the Yankees, he goes ahead and gets an offer from another team.
I guarantee you, if the Yankees gave Aaron Boone a one-year offer, he's going to turn that down. And the Padres are going to go for him. The Mets are going to go for him. There's going to be a bunch of teams going for him. And I think it was Joel Sherman said Aaron Boone would have been the hottest name. Or no, it was actually Brian Cashman. And he was right when he says this, that Aaron Boone would have been the hottest free agent manager. And he would have been snagged up instantly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I think that they went ahead and gave him the 3-year deal. I mean, worst case, you fire him and pay him the rest of the contract anyway. It wouldn't be the first time that happened, and it certainly wouldn't be the last either. So we'll have to see what happens with Aaron Boone. But on the other side of a manager who currently does not have a job as of this week is the St. Louis Cardinals and Mike Shildt, a decision that I think baffled a lot of people, including Yadier Molina, who when he was asked about it seemed pretty confused, said that everyone in the dugout really enjoyed him, really enjoyed how he talked to the players, managed the team, and said, I don't know, maybe there's something going on with him in the front office. But James, I don't know, a really baffling decision, in my opinion, to let Mike Shildt go, especially after a amazing performance by the Cardinals in the second half to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the guys in the dugout loved him. Paul Goldschmidt, Yadier Molina, Nolan Arenado, they all talked about how much the leadership from the coaching staff, especially Mike Shildt, was so important, especially during the 17-game winning streak down the stretch, which propelled them into the wild card game. They caught fire there at the end. They had a tremendous second half, and the manager had a big part to do with that, obviously. Mike Shildt had been there for 3.5 seasons, and he had a winning record. They got to the playoffs in all 3 of the full seasons that he was there. He took over in the interim in 18, but the 3 full seasons that he was there, they won the NL Central in 19 and were a wild card in 20 and in 21. So it is a very surprising decision. I think it shocked everyone. It came down to a, quote, philosophical difference between Mike Shildt and the Cardinals front office. We'll see what direction they go from here. That is a very appealing managerial job. They're built to win right now. They have a lot of good pieces in place, but it's unfortunate that this happened because you can tell the players really liked him. It was a guy that they were willing to go fight for every day, and Mike Shildt did a tremendous job in St. Louis. There's nothing that you can really knock him for. He did well with the cards he was dealt with, and he led them to playoffs 3 consecutive years. So a really baffling firing.
And not only is that going to be an attractive position for other managers, it seems like Mike Shildt's going to be an attractive piece for teams who are looking for a manager.
Especially San Diego.
I was going to say, in particular, the San Diego Padres, who reportedly already are having discussions about bringing him in for an interview.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would be the perfect piece for San Diego. They're a team that drastically underperformed this past season, and St. Louis had underperformed in the couple seasons before Mike Shildt got there, led them to 3 consecutive playoff appearances. So Mike Shildt could be the missing ingredient that the Padres need in the dugout, and in hopes of them turning it around and finally getting to the postseason.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens there with Mike Shildt. I mean, ultimately a baffling one in my opinion and a lot of people's opinion, but there must be something going on between them and the front office here. And also, if you're not keeping track at home, the NLCS is currently going on. Game 3 between the Braves and the Dodgers. Braves up 2-0 in the series, and Braves also up 5-2 in this game, and it looks like that's the 5th inning. Is that correct, James?
Yeah, Adam Duvall just hit an RBI single, and Braves got men on the corners with 1 out.
Yeah, Braves really having it all going here in the first 2 games, and also here in the third. Dodgers, if they want to avoid going down 3 games in this crucial series to get to the World Series, they're going to have to pick it up.
I've heard several Dodger fans say that if they lose a series or get swept, they want Dave Roberts gone. I think that's ridiculous, by the way.
No, he's a great manager.
Yeah, 100%. He did mismanage the bullpen in Game 2. I don't understand why he went to Julio Urias out of the bullpen, by the way. I don't know. Can you guys explain that? Because he was terrible out of the bullpen.
James, you want to try to explain that?
I mean, first of all, I think Dave Roberts should have been gone a while ago, so I'm going to disagree with both of you.
Okay.
I think he's a terrible manager. He's gotten the Dodgers to the World Series 3 times. He choked them 1 away in 17. He choked 19 away against the Nationals. He mismanaged the World Series in 18 when he took Rich Hill out. He got lucky last year that they won the World Series, because if they didn't, he would have been fired. He has mismanaged pitchers in the playoffs so many times. He left Joe Kelly out there in Game 5 of the 19 NLDS for a second inning. Howie Kendrick hit the grand slam, bringing in Kershaw in the 19 LDS instead of sticking with Buehler for the 8th inning. I know the pitch count was up there, but still, you stick with your guy. Dave Roberts has made a lot of questionable decisions in the postseason. I'm really not sure why he still has a job. I know he won the World Series. He probably should have been fired after 19. He really should have been. He's not that good of a manager, and he's been the victim of being on a really good team and having the most talented team in baseball across the last 5 seasons. But if he were somewhere else, he would not be doing as good of a job, because he's much better suited for a bench coach role. I just don't see it with Dave.
I got to be honest, that's a pretty good point. I mean, he's been a part of some very talented teams and
that have failed over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not taking away that they won the World Series last year, but keep in mind it was a 60-game season in the bubble. Yes, it was hard, but you didn't have to navigate the normal postseason waters. You didn't have to navigate the normal travel schedule, all that sort of stuff. Dave Roberts has failed with a lot of really good teams, and he's on the verge of failing yet again. I know they were a wildcard team this year, but they won 106 games. Yes, the Atlanta Braves are good, but they won 88 games. We've talked about how good they've been since the trade deadline, all that. Yes, the Braves are a great team that shouldn't be overlooked. The Dodgers should win this series, and if they lose this series, Dave Roberts' seat should get hot. I know he just won the World Series last year, but he really should have been fired after 19, so his seat should get hot, especially with the talent they have on this team, acquiring Scherzer, acquiring Turner, not even getting to the World Series. That deserves to put him on the hot seat.
No, those are definitely great points, James, but here's my thing. I think that making the World Series is ridiculously hard, and the Dodgers have made the World Series, what,
Three out of the last four.
Yeah, something like that. Some crazy number.
Three out of the last four.
Yeah, exactly. To make it to the World Series is crazy hard, and the fact that he's led them to the World Series that many years in a row. So yes, he has made questionable decisions, but he's also gotten them there. I don't think that you can blame the manager for that entirely.
No, that's definitely something, and he has something to do with it. But in terms of the decisions he has made in those series that have cost them those series, you can look at the turning point in each series. When they took Rich Hill out of Game 4 in 2018. In Game 4 of the World Series.
Yeah, I remember
that turned the tide for that entire game and that entire series, because the Dodgers win that game, they tie the series at 2, you don't know what happens. The Red Sox win, they take a 3-1 lead, they win the next night. Like, it is what it is. 17. In 19, leaving Joe Kelly out there for a second inning in Game 5 of the LDS and bringing Kershaw in instead of sticking with Buehler. Those are two, because if you take Kelly out there, you have a 1-2-3 bottom of the 10th, and then you come back, you hit a walk-off, you go to the LCS, you probably go to the World Series in 19.
Well, him taking Buehler out, I understand that's a good point, but I don't think you can blame Dave Roberts for that, because Buehler's pitch count was crazy high at that
Kershaw?
point.
I know we shouldn't debate postseason pass, but that's more of the move than I'm questioning. Why go to Kershaw there?
And that's a fair point. My thing is that I don't think he should be fired because he's led the Dodgers to the World Series so many times in a consecutive, 3 out of the last 4 years. I think that's just absolutely insane, and I think that it's unfair to fire him after leading your team to the World Series that many times. And to say that the Dodgers should have won more than one World Series, it's just so hard winning a World Series nowadays, guys. I mean, the Houston Astros look like they have a dynasty. They've only won one World Series within the last 5 or 6 years. The Red Sox, they've been crazy good. They've only won one. The Dodgers only won one. So winning a World Series is really hard, and I think that to criticize him for not winning a World Series, I think that's just a little bit unfair.
I got to be honest. I think this is a conversation that we definitely have to have next week.
In the offseason, yeah.
Not even definitely the offseason, but next week as well when we know the result of this series, because like James said, I think what happens in this series could very well determine his future in Los Angeles.
So you really think he can get fired if they lose the series?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I really do.
There is no excuse whatsoever that this Dodgers team doesn't at least make the World Series.
Yeah, I get your argument about not criticizing him for not winning every one, but at a certain point you have, with that talented of a team, you got to have more than one, and you got to at least make it to this one, because this is probably the most talented team they've had.
If Dave Roberts gets fired, then yes, I will be mad about the Aaron Boone hire, because I would rather have David Roberts as a manager than Aaron Boone.
Wow.
That's just how it is.
I mean, I guess resume speaks for itself there. I guess that's what you're basing it on. He's gotten to more World Series than Aaron Boone has, but I don't know if I agree with that. I guess I would agree with it on the fact that I still do believe that Aaron Boone is basically, like James said, a puppet. I think Dave Roberts does a little more to kind of break the mold of being a puppet, but also to go back to what James said, I don't think they're always the right decisions. I think he's really mismanaged in the postseason, even in the regular season. I think he's made some questionable moves and has gotten away with it because of the talented team they have. But going back to it, the final point I want to make here, they need to be in the World Series. The Dodgers need to be in the World Series. There's no excuse that the $280 million payroll team that won 100-plus games and, didn't even win the division, I know, but still, there's no excuse. You have to be in the World Series. You can't make that trade for Turner and Scherzer. You can't have the payroll like it is and not do it. I'm sorry.
The Yankees have a payroll that's just as high. Also, Dave Roberts is a former manager of the year.
The Yankees do not have a $280 million
It's not $280 million, but it's one of the highest in baseball.
Yes, but the
Dodgers went $70 million.
That's what I'm saying.
Tax.
$70 million over the luxury tax, and you're not even in the World Series? That's not acceptable.
Is it acceptable the fact that the Yankees lose in the wild card game?
No, which is why they shouldn't have rehired Aaron Boone.
I don't think it was acceptable
Dave
either.
Roberts and Aaron Boone are in the same boat.
Robbie, I think you're forgetting I had them winning that game, and I thought that there was no reason why they shouldn't have. And like Jim said, I gave them the edge because of the bullpen. So, I mean, we're talking about the Dodgers here, but if you want to go back to the Yankees, yes, I think it's inexcusable what they did, but it's even more inexcusable if the Dodgers don't get it done because of the fact that, like James said, they are $70 million over the luxury tax.
I think it's more inexcusable for the Yankees to lose in the wild card game than it is for the Dodgers not to make the World Series. That's just all. I think that should be the end of this topic.
All right, moving on then. I think we have a few more here before we get into the postseason discussion. A quick reminder, if you want to call in to talk about anything baseball related, current or past, that is 202-319-5106, 202-319-5106 is that number. Speaking of more executive decisions that are potentially going on around baseball, a big name, Billy Beane, this week. It was announced that he has removed his name from the running for a potential front office position with the New York Mets. And guys, I don't really think anyone is surprised that he's staying put in Oakland.
No, even though he has no money to play with Oakland, the Mets are such a dysfunctional organization that I can understand, unless, he was partnering with Theo Epstein or somebody like that, to not go there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't think there's any reason to be surprised about Billy Beane not going to the New York Mets. Billy Beane just seems really satisfied, really happy with Oakland. He seems like a really big family guy, and his family's content in Oakland, so there's no reason for him to move to New York. Also, like James said, the New York Mets are an absolute mess right now. It's a very dysfunctional franchise, and I don't think he would want to go there. The Oakland A's, they're looking pretty good possibly, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would feel pretty at home as well if a movie was made about me and Brad Pitt played me in that organization. So I agree with that statement indeed. No real surprise that Billy Beane is staying with the Oakland Athletics. Final point before we get into the postseason here. Did you guys hear who wants to be a manager? Announced it, I believe it was today or yesterday.
Brian Dozier.
Brian Dozier, former power-hitting second baseman legend of the Dodgers, Nationals, Twins, of course. Yeah, wants to manage. What do we think about his chances of actually trying to land a job? He said he thinks that he can follow, I believe the players he compared himself to were the footsteps of Aaron Boone, and there was one other one.
Dave Roberts?
Dave Roberts, that's right.
Not Dave Roberts.
It was David Ross.
David Ross, that's right, of the Cubs. Yeah, no, got David Roberts on the brain here, but yeah, no, thinks he can be a manager, thinks that those two are took a similar path that he could. What do we think about that? Brian Dozier, I mean,
be a bench coach for 5 years. Then
I was going to say, I think the more appropriate path would be to be a bench coach for a little bit and
or
work
third base
up.
coach, hitting coach, whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, I don't think a team's hiring him as manager right out of nowhere.
Well, that's the thing. It's been, 2-3 years since he's been in baseball?
Yeah, it's only been 3 years, yeah.
I mean, to go 3 years without being in baseball and then just going into it just like that, I mean, I think it's just kind of difficult. I think, it's a good idea to make him a bench coach, make him a third base coach, make him a hitting coach, do something, get him in the dugout, get him used to it, and then get him ready to go.
Now, guys, another name, this wasn't mentioned recently, but I know he's wanted to be a manager for a long time, hasn't officially retired yet, but one that I think would do a good job right out of the gate as a new manager, Jeff Mathis. I think that's an absolute name you need to watch when you're talking about potential new first-time managers, because that guy knows how to call a game. Of course, one of the best framers in the game currently, maybe in history, if you want to look at advanced sabermetrics. But, he's a guy that I would watch out for potential new managers. Maybe not this year, but in the next couple years.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see Jeff Mathis becoming a manager one day. I mean, he seems like he just controls games really well, calls good pitches, and like Andrew said, he's one of the best framers of all time. Kind of reminds me of another guy who I could see managing one day, maybe a guy like Eric Kratz. I remember Eric Kratz when he was with the Yankees really brought the clubhouse together during several difficult times. And
he's the one who learned Spanish just so he could talk to the Yankees pitchers.
Yeah, exactly. So a guy like that I could see becoming a manager as well. But a lot of catchers who are like veterans, a lot of backup catchers, guys who just hang around the league for a long time, are guys that they could become good managers one day. Joe Girardi is an example.
I was going to say, think about Joe Girardi. Think about Joe Torre. Did he catch?
David Ross.
Joe Torre wasn't a catcher? I thought he was.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, Joe Torre as well. There you go. There's another one. But yeah, a lot of catchers making good managers. Not really a big surprise there. I think we all understand why that's the case. So Jeff Mathis, one to look out for, and we'll see what happens with Brian Dozier. With that said, about halfway through the show here tonight, let's get into, of course, this week's postseason discussion. All throughout the postseason, we'll be breaking down the latest of what's going on. And currently in the League Championship Series and for both the National League and the American League. Guys, do we want to talk about the division series that finished up before we go into discussion about what's currently going on, or we just want to hop in to some of the big topics?
Real quick for 1 minute.
Yes.
The Giants and the Dodgers series deserve to go 7 games. They were the 2 best teams in baseball. It was a real gutsy move for Dave Roberts to bring Max Scherzer in. There was one move that he actually deployed right, bringing Max Scherzer
I agree.
in the 9th inning. He said after the game there's going to be a cost, and the cost is going down 0-2, and Scherzer's arm being dead. But they had to do what they had to do to win. I think they're trying to get too cute with having Corey Knebel as an opener. But that was a tremendous series. It was the 2 best teams in baseball going back and forth, and one team had to lose, unfortunately.
Yeah, also one team had to lose, unfortunately, on a very questionable play.
Yeah, I don't think Wilmer Flores was getting a hit in that at-bat, but that was a terrible call to end the game. The Giants' season did not deserve to end like that. A tremendous season for the Giants, 107 wins, career season from Buster Posey, career season from Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt, Evan Longoria with another solid season. The Giants are building a monster. I know this year they relied on a lot of veterans, but Farhan Zaidi is building a monster in San Francisco. They'll be back. They'll be back for years to come.
Pitching was really good, too.
Yeah, Robbie, as he mentions here, pitching was very good in that
Webb.
series. Logan Webb, an absolute gem in Game 1. Kevin Gausman looking good as well. It was a great series, and I agree with James. Deserved to go 7. Unfortunately, of course, can't do that in a division series. But, guys, let's just, like James said, it did not deserve to end like that between these 2 teams because nobody in baseball watched that video and thought that he actually swung. And the other thing is you just can't end a series like that. If you're an umpire, James said this on a show a very long time ago. He said, I believe he was being sarcastic and was something like, oh, yeah, look, I'm the umpire. Everyone comes to the ballpark to see me. That's a kind of moment that I thought was exactly what James said. The umpire was pulling
Welcome to the ump show.
Exactly. Welcome to the ump show. Look at me. I'm going to be the one you're here to see. And honestly, it kind of ticked me off because, and the fact is, not even the fact that he didn't go, like, I don't know. The whole thing just really irked me, and I think it echoed the problem that we've been having for a long time on this show with umpires.
Yeah, and I think James was right when he said that. I personally don't think Wilmer Flores would have gotten a hit in that at-bat as well. I think he was 0 for 12 in his career against Max Scherzer.
I don't either, but at least let him strike out properly.
No, definitely. I definitely agree. It was a ridiculous call, and it was totally unfair. One thing I do think is, and honestly, that series, by the way, lived up to expectations.
Without question.
Yes. Like, we expected it to be a great series. That was probably the best first-round series. I don't think it was close. Now,
it's a great one.
Now, the thing I was thinking about was if the Braves sweep the Dodgers, does that kind of deteriorate what the Giants did all season because they lost to the Dodgers? I don't think it should, but I saw some people saying, like, you lose to the Dodgers and the Dodgers just get spanked by the Braves.
No, because they were division rivals, and I think that series gassed the Dodgers so much they had to exhaust everything. It should not take away anything from what the Giants did all season. Because who's to say if the Giants win that they don't come in and sweep the Braves or win in 5? Baseball's so unpredictable. You can't just say the Braves would have swept the Giants as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it should take anything away from what the Giants did this year. Giants had a fantastic year. I agree. Their general manager building a monster out there. And, hey, don't forget the in this case, potentially, I might have to concede this, that a manager did have an impact positively on a team this year, and that was with Gabe Kapler, who I think probably will be winning manager of the year without a question.
Sure, yeah.
And wasn't, Andrew, weren't you the guy that was calling on him to be fired by the Phillies?
I think every Phillies fan
every Phillies fan wanted him
was.
fired, to be fair. But you got to understand something. Gabe Kapler, I never thought he was a good manager, but I didn't think he was a horrible manager. He was never the problem with the Phillies, and I think this year showed that he wasn't the problem, especially last year as well. But the thing is with Gabe Kapler, he was not a Philadelphia guy, and this might not make sense to people who don't watch Philadelphia sports or are Philadelphia fans. You need to have a certain type of demeanor and personality to be successful and well-liked in this city, And Gabe Kapler was not that guy. Gabe Kapler was the kind of guy who would be making excuses left and right for his players. I got the sense that there wasn't a lot of accountability going on. Of course, we have the story of Jake Arrieta playing Fortnite in 2018 and Carlos Santana coming in smashing the flat screen with his bat. Stuff like that. It makes you feel like there's a manager who's running a clubhouse that's just not very put together. But evidently so. He's found a home in San Francisco, and maybe he changed up his managing style a little bit. I didn't watch the Giants religiously this year, so I'm not sure about that. He seemed to manage the bullpen pretty well, and ultimately, to go back to the main point Robbie was making, should not cheapen at all what the Giants have done this year. They had a fantastic season, and hats off to them. I'm sorry that it had to end the way that it did. And I believe that was that the only division series that hadn't wrapped up by the time?
Yes, it was.
So that's it for the division series. Let's get on to the 2 championship series that have been going on, and starting in the AL with the Astros and the Red Sox. Whole lot of offense going on there, and a whole lot of bad starting pitching on the for the Astros. I mean, we saw a stat earlier that was, I believe their starter ERA is 20.25?
Yeah, 20.25 right? In the ALCS. This is my little Red Sox victory lap section of the week. Kike Hernandez is hitting like Babe Ruth this postseason, hitting like Mickey Mantle. He's hitting like David Ortiz. He's literally putting himself among the postseason greats in terms of a single postseason run. So this postseason, Kike Hernandez, where should we start? Average, he's hitting 500. He's got 18 hits. He's got a 513 on base percentage.
How many at-bats is that, by the way? Do you know?
He's got 36 at-bats.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's 18 for 36. He's got a 513 on base percentage, so even though he's not walking, it's because he's hitting the ball so much. He's got 18 hits. He's got 5 home runs. He's got 9 doubles. He's only struck out 4 times. He has more home runs this postseason than he does strikeouts, which is incredibly absurd. So the Red Sox most total bases in one single postseason. David Ortiz in 2004 had 42. In 2007, Kevin Youkilis at 37. In 2013, David Ortiz at 36. Those were in 14 games, and 16 games respectively. Kike Hernandez in 8 postseason games after last night. Anyone want to take a guess how many total bases he has?
What was number 1 on that list?
David Ortiz, 42 in 2004 and 14 games played.
I'm going to say that Kike Hernandez has at least 35.
Robbie?
I was going to say probably like 35 as well. I want to say 40, though.
Kike Hernandez has 37 total bases in 8 postseason games.
That's
so
pretty
he is
good.
Very well on pace to pass David Ortiz for most total bases in Red Sox single postseason history. And I don't know what the all-time MLB leaderboard is, but he certainly is up there in terms of total bases for a single postseason. Rafael Devers leads the Red Sox in RBIs with 11 RBIs. Let's go through the Red Sox team stats real quick, because the story of the postseason for them has been the offense. They've hit 20 home runs in 8 postseason games. That's more home runs than they hit in the entire 18 postseason. Their offense has been incredible. They're hitting .317 with a .374 on base percentage, a .941 OPS. Oh, I forgot to mention Kike Hernandez's OPS, 1541. This is video game, create your player in MLB The Show type numbers. The Red Sox have scored 57 runs. They have 95 hits, 15 doubles, and 56 runs batted in, 170 total bases as an offensive unit. JD Martinez, a guy who, besides Kike Hernandez, is probably having the best postseason for Boston. He has probably hit the 2 biggest home runs for the Red Sox in the postseason. He's hitting .423 with a 1310 OPS. He's got 3 home runs in the postseason. He's got 10 RBIs, 22 total bases. I don't think he's going to opt out, but if he does, this postseason will get him paid a lot of money, and no matter what, I hope the Red Sox re-sign him, because he is the definition of clutch, he is the definition of Mr. Constant, and he's doing this on a bum ankle. Kyle Schwarber, otherwise known as Kyle from Waltham, .281 average with a .955 OPS, big grand slam last night. The Red Sox continue to hit grand slams. The grand slam parade rolls on. Rafael Devers leads the team in RBIs. Alex Verdugo, guy who they got back in the Mookie Betts trade. Some people call him a 4th outfielder. Hitting .353 with a .935 OPS. Has more RBIs for the Red Sox in the postseason than Mookie Betts did in 21 games with the Red Sox over the course of 3 seasons, which is incredible that Alex Verdugo has already passed Mookie Betts. Xander Bogaerts hitting .303. The averages are just completely insane by most of these. Christian Vasquez, he's hitting .320. I don't think anybody expected that, myself included. He's having a phenomenal postseason. Up and down the lineup, the offense is doing a tremendous job. That's what's carrying this Red Sox team. And oh, by the way, Nathan Eovaldi, I don't know if I don't think you could name 3 more guys that you'd want on the mound in a big game besides Nate Eovaldi. His postseason ERA, I believe, is 1.82. It was 1.67 going into career postseason ERA. Yeah, it was 1.67 going into his start on Saturday. But in big games, he continually steps up. He is earning every single penny of that contract. Obviously, you have 2018 Game 3, but it's the wild card game, then the Game 3 start against Tampa Bay, and now this start in Game 2 against Houston. He's done a tremendous job. Eduardo Rodriguez, two great starts in a row, both against Tampa and then Houston. Chris Sale, still coming back from Tommy John. He was much better in his last start than he was in his previous 2 outings. Wasn't great, but he was much better than he was in his previous 2 outings. He's going to have to attack the zone. The Red Sox can't hide from him. Nick Pivetta obviously did a great job in relief. He's getting the ball tonight. And Garrett Whitlock has really carried them out of the bullpen. And Alex Cora, we cannot go. We talked about bad managing in the postseason. How about good managing? Alex Cora is 17-5 in 22 postseason games as a manager. As a bench coach or a manager, he has never lost a postseason series. He's 8-0 as the bench coach for the Astros in 17, now with the Red Sox in 18 and in 21. In clinching games, he's 5-0 in the postseason. Most wins to start a career. Terry Francona is right above him with 6. Alex Cora knows how to manage the bullpen. He has a plan for everything. He's very strategic. He's the best manager in baseball. He knows exactly what he's doing in the postseason. The guys love him, and he's probably going to win AL Manager of the Year this year.
Yeah, when you examine, just to go back to Eovaldi here for a second, when you examine a contract after it's done to see if it was worth it, a lot of people go ahead and look at the stats over there. What was it, a 4-year, 5-year deal?
It was a 4-year, $68 million deal.
4-year deal.
$17 million per year.
Right, so you go back and a lot of people go ahead, examine the stats from those years, see the awards, see the regalia, stuff like that, right? But when you go back and look at this Nate Eovaldi contract, which, by the way, was given him, of course, as James said, after he was the hero in 2018 in that huge relief outing that they ended up losing, of course, but he gave it his all.
He could have not played a game and he still would have earned that $68 million because of that.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. When you go back and examine this contract, if the Red Sox end up winning the pennant this year and somehow winning the World Series as well, and he continues to do what he's doing, all that money's worth it just for that.
Oh, he's been their best pitcher all year, and he honestly had a decent year last year. Obviously, it was just a shortened season. They were on a bad team. Nobody really paying attention to him. But Nathan Eovaldi when he stays healthy, he's as nasty as it gets. He's called Nasty Nate for a reason. I mean, he's got 5 pitches. They all come out of the same arm slot. He throws hard. He throws with movement. I don't know how anybody gets a hit off him.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that. For some reason, the regular season, Eovaldi gives up like as many hits as per inning. I mean, I think he gave up 187 hits in 187 innings, but no. James is right. In the postseason, he definitely steps it up. And same thing with Kike Hernandez. Kike Hernandez has always been a really good postseason hitter as well. So I think the Red Sox knew this coming in. They set their team up to get a bunch of guys who just step it up in the postseason. I know Kyle Schwarber's had some big moments in the postseason as well with the Chicago Cubs. So you look at this Red Sox team, they got a lot of postseason experience, and it's good experience. I think that's something that separates them from a lot of teams.
Yeah, and also, like, I know they're hitting a lot of home runs, but they can score other ways. Like, they're hitting the grand slams, but they are getting guys on base. These aren't just a bunch of solo home runs. They know how to manufacture runs. They know how to score runs. Also becoming the first team in postseason history with 3 grand slams in a single series and 2 grand slams in the same game, which is completely amazing that the same team did it.
James, I hate to bring it up again, but I just got to do it again. When you guys signed Kike Hernandez, I told you this is the guy, the kind of guy you want. He's the guy you want. He is a Bloom guy. I agree.
No, he's a glue guy.
Oh, glue guy. I thought you said a Bloom guy.
No, he is a glue guy.
I was going to say, I thought you meant he's a Bloom guy. He's a guy that Bloom thought we need on this team.
Nah, Hernandez is great. He plays how many different positions?
All of them.
He plays all of them. Mainly second and center, but he can play anywhere.
Right. He can play several different positions. You can put him anywhere in the lineup because he can also run pretty well. I mean, you put him the leadoff, second, last, and he does everything that a team needs. And I was surprised he only got a 2-year deal this past offseason. Honestly, I think he could have gotten a pretty big deal. I don't know. Especially after the World Series when I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox just went ahead and extended him this offseason to lock in their center fielder of the future. Maybe give him 3 more years.
How old is he, James? Do you know?
29 or 30.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And you wonder how much the Dodgers are missing Kike Hernandez and Jock Peterson this postseason.
No kidding.
2 guys who were Dodgers mainstays who came up big for them in multiple postseasons, who are now coming up big for the Red Sox and the Braves. Jock Peterson obviously with 2 big pinch hit home runs. It's the pearls, it's whatever you want to call it. Jock Peterson is doing the damn thing for the Braves again. And you really have to wonder how much the Dodgers miss those glue guys, because we talk about the talent, all the talent the Dodgers have. But Kike Hernandez and Jock Peterson are 2 instrumental figures on those Dodgers teams, overlooked figures, but guys that are really stepping up right now and that are doing a tremendous job. You wonder how much the Dodgers miss contributions from guys like that.
Without question. Let's get into that Braves and Dodgers series in a second here, but before we do that, we talked a lot about the success of the Red Sox. Let's talk about what the Astros are not doing right. And of course, where else can you start besides starting pitching? Because it has been abysmal.
Yeah, it's been abysmal. They have a 20.25 ERA. They faked an injury for Luis Garcia to get him out of the game on Saturday after he gave up the grand slam to J.D. Martinez. Jake Odorizzi came in relief. I know he's not a starter, but he didn't do much better. Gave up a grand slam to Devers, all that. Game 1 for Framber Valdez, he didn't go 5 innings. He pitched fine, but he gave up 3 runs and 4 1/3. He wasn't exactly great. And then last night, Jose Urquidy set the Red Sox down 1-2-3 in the first. He looked good, and then he just came undone in the second inning, gave up 6 earned runs. The Astros starting pitching hasn't been there tonight. They're relying on an injured Zach Greinke against Nick Pivetta. I think the Red Sox are going to take it to him. On this show, I said Red Sox in 7. Then when the McCullers news hit, I changed it to Red Sox in 6. Now I think Red Sox in 5. I really think they can end it at Fenway. I think right now they have the Astros on the ropes, right? They really have them reeling. If they can give it to them tonight, I mean, you can pretty much you can set the tone for tomorrow with another blowout win tonight.
Now, Robbie, you hate to play the game of what if here, but got to ask the question, how magnified is the loss of Justin Verlander right now to the Houston Astros as they are struggling big time with their starting pitching?
I mean, it definitely hurts. They definitely could have used Justin Verlander right now, but I don't think not having Justin Verlander is the reason why the Astros are losing in the series. The fact of the matter is that the pitching can't give up 12 runs if they're going to win. And yes, starting pitching's been really bad, but also you look at a guy like Yimi Garcia last night who was absolutely terrible. You look at Jake Odorizzi a few nights ago, absolutely terrible. The Red Sox are just hitting everything that the Astros are throwing, and it's just a testimony to how good the Red Sox lineup is. It has nothing to do with how bad the pitching is, because you look at it, the Rays pitching was historically good this season, right? What did the Red Sox do? They shelled them in the postseason.
Sure did.
When it comes to the Astros, their pitching rotation I thought was fine the entire season. It looked fine in the ALDS, and now they're getting shelled. It has nothing to do with them just performing really poorly. It's more so just that the Red Sox are really good. So I think if Justin Verlander were there, I think he would help, yes, but I don't even know if he'd get these Red Sox hitters out, because everything that's being thrown, they're hitting. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Actually, I haven't seen a lineup this good since the 2018 Red Sox, which I thought was the best lineup in baseball, but now this lineup might be even better.
And one more thing, Ken Rosenthal this morning with the report about the Astros tipping their pitches. Stop carrying water. Do you really think Kyle Schwarber needed a tip pitch to hit a 3-0 grand slam on a 3-0 pitch right down the middle?
No.
Do you think JD Martinez needed that on a 3-0 pitch from Luis Garcia? No. This is not because the Astros are tipping their pitches. I can promise you that, Ken.
So are the Red Sox America's team right now as they're playing against the
It's either the Red Sox
former
or the Braves.
cheaters?
It's not the Dodgers, and it's
I was
going to
say it's definitely not the Astros. And I don't
right
think it's
now
the
it could be the
Dodgers.
Red Sox because they are knocking the Astros out and they're doing America a favor. I think besides Yankees fans, all of America is rooting for the Red Sox. "Dancing on My Own" is their anthem. The artist of that song is playing it live at Fenway tonight.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is. He's playing it live at Fenway tonight. Should be a great performance, and hopefully the Red Sox keep dancing into the World Series.
I have a bold take, but I think whoever wins tonight's Red Sox-Astros game takes a series. Because I think if the Astros manage to pull through with this win, I think they're going to win the series.
You think they have enough pitching, even if they win tonight?
I think so, because what they're going to do is they're going to go back into Houston, and that team looks really good in Houston.
Right,
I know they didn't look
the Red Sox won tomorrow?
You mean like if the Astros win tonight and the Red Sox win tomorrow?
Yeah.
I think the Astros can win 2 in a row in Houston.
Even with their pitching. Look how their bullpen is completely decimated. They've had to use everyone in their bullpen over these last 2 nights.
I think they could make it work, but my big thing is that I think momentum is a really big factor when it comes to these series. And if the Astros win tonight, I think it's going to send a lot of momentum their way. And, we'll just have to wait and see how tonight and tomorrow goes.
Yeah. Well, hopefully with Callum Scott being at Fenway Park tonight, the Red Sox can keep dancing, keep winning, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I think really the biggest thing, but yes, you can talk about the Red Sox offense, but I think they've decimated the Astros pitching to a point where they win tonight, the series is pretty much over. Because what are the Astros going to do tomorrow if Valdez gets knocked around? Or if Valdez can't throw a complete game, who are they going to go to?
Well, if he gets knocked around, then the Astros probably won't win the game.
What are they going to do tonight if Greinke gets knocked around? They've exhausted every option.
If Greinke gets knocked around, then they're going to lose the series. That's what I'm saying. Whoever wins tonight's game, I think will take the series. If Zach Greinke has a great game, what the Astros need right now is let's hope for 7 innings out of Zach Greinke. That's asking for a lot. But if he can somehow pull through 6 or 7 innings, that's going to come a long way. And I think that's what's going to help them win the series, because their bullpen is going to be fully rejuvenated, and it's going to change things in Houston.
All right, about 10 to 15 minutes left here on the show. And I think a good segue into talking about the other LCS going on between the Braves and the Dodgers is a fun fact that I read today. I believe it was actually courtesy of Bob Nightingale, surprisingly. He typed a tweet correctly. Yeah. Well, this wasn't so much prediction as it was just a pretty interesting tidbit. Did you guys know that among all of the final 4 teams standing, they all have general managers that are connected to the Tampa Bay Rays?
Yes.
Because you have Andrew Friedman, of course, of the Dodgers, James Click for the Astros, Chaim Bloom, all of them came from Tampa Bay, and Alex Anthopoulos for the Atlanta Braves, he worked under Andrew Friedman. So the Tampa Bay Rays still having their presence in the 2021 postseason, even if they were eliminated by the Boston Red Sox. But now, I just think that's a testament to what they've been able to do and the type of personnel they've been able to establish and train and bring up over the past couple of years. And guys, my question is, when do they stop letting people take their guys?
Or when will the Rays spend money?
You know what?
Yes, maybe that's it. Because
it is it. Because I said here,
Chaim Bloom and Andrew Friedman are running the Rays operation in Boston and Los Angeles, except they have money to play with.
Yeah.
And look how good of a job they're both doing.
Hey, I mean, you don't have to tell that to me. I'm the one who had a whole rant on here last week about the Rays needing to. This is the time. Finally, spend your money. Anyway, putting that aside here, we'll definitely talk about that more in the offseason. Let's get on to the LCS. The NLCS between the Braves and the Dodgers. In case you are not keeping track, it is currently still 5-2 Atlanta, now in the 6th inning. They have runners on first and second. Dodgers struggling as well, and the Braves looking like they might be able to put this one away if they can get a couple more runs here.
Speaking of this series, you want to know? Okay, Braves walk-off magic. Austin Riley, game 1, delivered in the clutch. Eddie Rosario, game 2, the most improbable of heroes. Yes, but my point about game 2, another point about Dave Roberts, why do you bring Kenley Jansen in to face Rosario when Gratterall let one guy on base? Sure. He's throwing 1 of 3 effortlessly. Why not let him in to finish the 9th, let Jansen come in with a clean inning for the 10th? That's another Dave Roberts move, getting back to that.
I mean, Jansen's your closer, though.
Yeah, but the game could probably go extras. And when has Kenley Jansen ever been locked down in the postseason? Every postseason, they try to go to him for 6 outs a night, and it seems like he will always be messy. He'll give up a run or two, and they continually have blind faith in him for no reason.
I don't think it's a fair testimony. I don't think it's fair to just get on Dave Roberts because he took out Brusar Gratterall, put his closer Kenley Jansen in. I mean, Jansen's supposed to be the closer. He's supposed to be the guy.
Then you put him in to start the 9th inning, and you let Gratterall go in extras. Like, there was no reason at that point to take Gratterall out.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's ever fair to, criticize a manager for bringing a closer in. Well, I mean, most situations I don't think it's fair, but.
I just think with 2 outs in the 9th, you let Gratterall live or die with the result. You bring Jansen in for a clean inning in the 10th, because when has he ever done it efficiently and clean in the postseason? He hasn't. It's always a mess. It's always a mess. You know there's going to be traffic on the bases, and when the winning run is on second, why would you risk that? I know he only needs to get 1 out, but there's a reason why Jansen isn't coming back to the Dodgers after this year. There's a reason why he hasn't gotten it done in the postseason. It's because he's not clean and efficient.
Now, we talked about the fact that the Dodgers are maybe a little fatigued after that 5-game series they had to play against their division rivals and the Giants, but I don't think anyone expected the Braves to come up 2-0 versus them and leading in Game 3 as well. I mean, let's not forget, it was pretty much agreed across the nation that whoever won the NL East was supposed to get eliminated right away, and the 88-win Braves are really giving this Dodgers team a run for their money.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I don't know if that's a testimony to how poor the Dodgers have performed or just how great the Braves have been. I don't know. What do you think it is?
I think it's the Braves.
Here's the thing. I think it has to be the Braves as well, just because, and look, I hate the Braves more than anyone probably in this studio, but the fact of the matter is their trade deadline was unbelievable, and we've said it so many times on this show, but what Alex Anthopoulos did, he saw an opportunity to win a division that they thought that, and that a lot of people thought they were out at. The Mets were in first at that point. The Phillies were right on their trail, and the Braves are just kind of hovering around 500 in third. But he went out, he retooled the entire team, guys like Soler, guys like Rosario, who came up big the other night, guys like Jock Peterson, who they got for basically nothing, and all of them are paying dividends now in October, and they have a chance to legitimately make the World Series.
Those are really good points, but I want to bring up something that James brought up earlier.
Sure.
Maybe the Dodgers are just worn out from that series against the Giants. I mean, that had to kill them. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. That's definitely a possibility. I mean, they put everything they had into winning that 5 games. I mean, we saw it with Max Scherzer pitching in Game 5, getting that save. James mentioned he's got a dead arm right now. He pitched in Game 2. He was not himself. I believe he even said it after the game. My arm feels dead. And this is the price that you pay for having to go to that 5 games against that.
Well, one thing about the Dodgers, Joe Kelly just got out of the jam. Joe Kelly has been their fireman, has been the Dodgers' Andrew Miller this postseason. And he was tremendous with the Red Sox in the 18 postseason. He's been great with the Dodgers this postseason, was great with the Dodgers last postseason. He's going to get a big contract this offseason, another decent-sized contract for a reliever. He's come in and gotten the Dodgers out of every single mess they brought him into. And it can't be understated for coming through in the big moments.
You think he gets a 3-year deal?
I'll probably get another 3-year deal, yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't know if I'd give it to him, but...
Another 3-year, $25 million deal.
Yeah. I mean, he probably will get that from a team desperate for bullpen help. I'm not sure I would do that.
No, personally, I wouldn't give it to Joe Kelly, especially with the fact that he has Tommy John history. Joe Kelly, really clutch guy in the postseason. However, I just don't think it's
not
reasonable.
To take away anything of what he's done, though. He's been brilliant.
Oh, he's been absolutely great for the Dodgers, and James is right. He was great for the Red Sox, but I still wouldn't give him 3 years because I think he's 33 years old, and to give somebody...
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be 36 years old at the end of that contract. Like, I understand he's had a great past, but he's a guy who's had Tommy John before, and I just don't think he's going to be the same.
Yeah, and another thing that I don't think we were able to mention last week because, of course, the division series wasn't wrapped up, but how about 2 years in a row, the same teams in the LCS? It's really interesting to see.
Except the Red Sox are taking the Rays' place.
No, I'm talking about the NLCS. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think it's amazing that the same two teams, and especially last year with the expanded playoffs, I mean.
Right, and the Astros have been to 5 in a row. I mean,
well, yeah.
We talked about, at the beginning of the 2010s, there was a lot of parity in baseball, but now it seems to be reverting back to, the Red Sox have cycled through 2 of the last 4 years. The Astros have been to 5 straight. The Braves have been to 2 straight. The Dodgers have been to two straight in 4 out of the last 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. You think about who was there? The Brewers. They've.
Yankees made it a few times too.
Yeah. The Yankees, the Brewers, it's the same 6 or 7 teams that have been there consistently since 2016-17. The Cubbies went to back-to-back ones. I know they're not anywhere close now, but there's not as much parity as there was at the beginning of the decade.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else I think we got to talk about before we wrap up here, of course, is Freddie Freeman in this series. Before this game, 0 for 7 with 7 strikeouts. Not sure how he's doing tonight exactly, but that's a big bat that hasn't been going for the Braves, but they've still been winning their games.
He was 2 for 2 to start off the game, actually.
Was
today.
he tonight?
Yeah,
all right, so it looks like he's out of it.
He had a big third at-bat, though. I don't know what he did in his third at-bat.
Well, I think that's just a testament to the rest of the Braves lineup picking it up.
Yeah, and the big home run off Hader last week, we actually didn't get to talk about that because that was
that's
right
right
after we went off air. That was incredibly clutch. Freddie Freeman should play the rest of his career in a Braves uniform, and he should be. And I know that obviously Phillies fans, Mets fans, whatever, probably don't like him, but by everybody else, he should be universally loved because that guy is what it means to be a baseball player.
Here's the thing: I don't think anyone hates him as a person. I love him.
You just hate that he's a Brave.
I love seeing his smile. I love seeing him interact with Bryce Harper. Good friends, but. Here's the thing, from a player standpoint, God, I hate that guy. He's so good. Now, here's the question I want to ask you, James, and Robbie as well, actually. I agree. There's no reason why he shouldn't be a Brave the rest of his life.
He should be their Chipper Jones,
But will he be?
Yes, they got to pay him. And think about how big of a leader he is, how much of a drop-off. I know they have Acuna, obviously, but they'd still have such a huge drop-off if Freeman left the heart of that order. Because I know he's going to be 32 next year, but it's not like he's declining at any point soon. Like, it'll probably be 4 years before he actually declines. Like, you give him a 6 or 7 year deal, you give him the money that he deserves. He signed an 8-year, $135 million deal when he was 23. He took a discount. He could have hit free agency when he was 27, 28, probably been a $170 to $200 million player. So he'll get some of that money back now. He deserves it. He's the heart of the Braves order, and he's going to be a Brave for life.
It also doesn't make sense to me why the Braves wouldn't re-sign him. Like, what's the motivation behind not re-signing him? He's the heart and soul of the Braves. As James said, he is their Chipper Jones. He's a guy that's performed his entire career. He's been really good. The fans love him in Atlanta. And I just cannot imagine how angry Atlanta fans would be if he had left.
Yeah, and he's 3 for 4 tonight, by the way.
There you go, 3 for 4. He has 2 bad games, and then boom, just like that, figures it out, and he's clutch.
Well, here's my thing. It's not a matter of why wouldn't the Braves re-sign him. It's a matter of there's a lot of teams who want a power left-handed hitting first baseman like him and maybe would give them a lot more money. So the question becomes, does Freddie Freeman potentially take less money to do that, or do the Braves just say, hey, you're important to us. Whatever anyone else says, we will beat that?
The Braves are going to give him a big deal. However, I do think that he'd be willing to take a discount to come back to Atlanta. He loves Atlanta. The city loves Atlanta. His son loves Atlanta. You see him go on the field every single day. He goes in the clubhouse every day like it's nothing. His home is in Atlanta. I guarantee you he would take a discount to stay there.
See, his son may love Atlanta, but I don't think he loves Atlanta as much as he loves Fernando Tatis Jr.
He's not going to the Padres if that's what you're suggesting.
No, I am not suggesting that. But I'm just referencing the All-Star game when I don't. Is his name?
Charlie.
Charlie.
Freeman,
yeah. Charlie just absolutely starstruck meeting Fernando Tatis Jr. in the All-Star break. If you haven't seen the video, it's a great one. But yeah, no, I agree. I think he remains a Brave. It's just gonna be a matter of is there another team, like a big market team, that wants him more and gives him a ridiculous number.
See, even though the Braves seemed like they were out of it at the trade deadline, they opted not to trade him, and they opted to build around him. They've had chances to trade him, and they've chosen not to do it. So the fact of the matter is, if you choose not to trade this guy, why would you just let him walk for nothing in free agency?
Well, I mean, you could ask that about a lot of different teams, but the fact of the matter is, it's not that they weren't in contention. They thought that they seriously could still make the playoffs and win the division, and they were right. So it was worth it not to trade him because he contributed to that. By the way, going back to that Hader home run, he did that earlier this season as well off of Hader.
Yeah, he's incredible. He can hit against anybody. He can hit any pitch. He's as complete of a hitter as you'll get. He just doesn't get talked about as much. I'm glad he won an MVP last year so he could finally get some respect on his name, and he deserves the national media attention that he's finally getting because since he's entered baseball, he's been one of the best all-around hitters in the game. There's no doubt about that.
No doubt at all. Going to be one of the more interesting free agents to watch over the offseason. And trust me, we will get to that, but we have at least 2 more weeks of baseball here through the World Series and into November potentially, depending on how long that World Series goes. And we're going to be talking about that, of course, the next 2 weeks and breaking it all down, all the latest news, everything that's going on with the postseason, of course, as usual, right here on Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. And that's going to about wrap up tonight's show. We're going to go out a little bit early here, so everyone who wants to can go catch that ALCS Game 4 between the Astros and the Red Sox. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. As usual, we'll be live next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Game 1 of the World Series.
That's right, for Game 1 of the World Series right here on WCUA Radio. Quick reminder, follow us on Instagram, @NatPastimeCap. We're going to be posting how to listen to our shows on Spotify. It's finally happening. It's finally ready to go. A lot more convenient way to do it. But, of course, if you want them instantly the day after, it's still going to be on our YouTube channel. Either way, listen to us in podcast form.
And one more thing. If the Red Sox and the Braves match up in the World Series, the Red Sox would get home field even though they're the wild card because they have the better record.
That's very true. Now, James,
a lot of people are wondering that is the answer because they have the better record.
James said he has got Red Sox in 5. Robbie, how about you for the ALCS? Let's do it before we end here.
I'm going to say Red Sox in 6.
Red Sox in 6?
I've been wrong about every single series. Red Sox in 6 games.
NLCS?
When you're openly admitting the reverse James.
And the Dodgers are going to win the series in 6 games.
Wow. Down 5-2.
They're going to
in
come
Game
back.
3. They're going to win this? Is it going 7?
It's going to 6, not 7.
It's going to 6. So the Braves aren't winning another game?
Yep, Dodgers are going to win this game.
All right, James, NLCS.
The reverse jinx is real, by the way.
Braves in 6.
Braves in 6. I got Dodgers in 7. I think they're coming back. They're too talented, and I got the Red Sox in 5. They look too good, and the starting pitching looks too bad for the Houston Astros. And that's going to wrap up tonight's edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital here on WCUA Radio. Thank you again all so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, James Higgins and Robbie Cruz. Have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Peace out, guys.